A faraway war. A clash of ideologies. And some of the biggest battles fought on African soil since World War II. For 23 years, 5 Western nations, members of the Soviet bloc, and 2 superpowers were locked into a war never formally declared. The South African Defense Force pitted against communist Angolans, SWAPO, Cubans, and Russians. Once the draft started, every able-bodied white South African male was called up for service. They were forced to adapt, both physically and emotionally.
A very strong opponent, a very strong enemy that was that deserved the full respect. It was a serious job.
This was the Cold War played out on a third world battleground, where the skies of Angola were once the most hostile airspace in the world. Negotiations led to a unilateral withdrawal and the cessation of combat. Many lost their lives. Emotional scars and lasting vivid memories remain.
My abiding memory of the whole Bush War is the quality of the South African men that were involved.
I'm still very proud of the unit I served, the comrades and my friends I made while serving there, and that's something nobody can take away from you.
There's never been any animosity or feeling of animosity from my side towards SWAPO or towards FAPLA or towards anybody else I've ever fought against, because they're all soldiers.
None of it was personal, because I guess war never is, and certainly at no point did I feel like I was angry or felt any personal emotion towards them. And I guess I'd really like to sit down and have a beer with one of those guys from the other side and hear his perspective on the war.
I truly believe that it is time for us when we can meet as friends. And please believe me, it will be a much more entertaining exercise.
My message to the former foe is, before we die, shouldn't we get together, drink a beer, discuss and learn from each other of what really happened and how we felt and what we did, because after all we were just soldiers.
South African troops were very well organized, were very well trained, very well professional, you see. They were the real professional troops, and they knew what for they were fighting, you see.
I didn't want to go to Africa, or anybody of my friends who didn't want to go to Africa. They could have written a report, I don't want to go, and he would not go. That's it, problem is solved. We have to understand any military is an instrument which sometimes participate in combat actions. We cannot escape that. And if a parent of South African soldier who has died while fighting Namibians, trained by me, I would have answered, I think, the same way. He's a soldier. Soldiers are dying.
Chasing a SWAPO commander for 2 days and eventually getting to a kraal like this and him hiding in one of these huts, and John chasing everybody out of the kraal and lining the team up, identifying one of the huts where this commander was, lining the team up with all of their rifles, driving a Casper over through the kraal, crushing the hut down, everybody firing into the rubble, and then him pulling that commander out of the rubble and giving him over to me. Shot a few times, driven over with a Casper, and saying to me, keep him alive, work with him.
What happened then was we pulled this man from under this thatch roof, and the medic tried to patch him together, put a drip into him, bandages and that. And myself and the warrant officer would interrogate him to find out, firstly, where his weapon was, and secondly, where his rendezvous point was going to be with his team. And he was just being completely uncooperative. Although he was shot and in pain, he was there mentally. He understood what was going on. And then I don't know how to explain it, but I just completely lost my temper. It seemed like all the years of frustration and the tension and anger, rage came welling up inside of me. I pulled my gun out and I shot this man between the eyes, murdered him. And that was life-changing, completely and utterly.
We are now in South Angola, a country that the Portuguese often term Terras do Mundo, the land at the end of the earth. It's here where the South Africans have taken the war to the enemy. They send in search and destroy teams in order to take out SWAPO terrorists. These people are preparing for an operation. We've caught them at the last moment on the ground, just before they're about to take off. Among them are quite a few illustrious war heroes, including one of them, Corporal Costa, who recently was awarded one of the highest medals in the South African Army, the Honoris Crux. He achieved his role in an attack several years ago, in which he brought out 12 wounded.
There is no doubt that conflict has molded the average South African troopie into a well-trained and coordinated fighting element. Strong and fit, these were boys just a year ago. And when combat does come, they're ready for it. An evening attack in the operational area presents few surprises. The enemy lobs a few mortars and then withdraws. The South Africans retaliate with every weapon in the arsenal. It can be a terrifying experience.
South Africa's military power is enhanced by a substantial industrial and logistic infrastructure on a scale that has been attained nowhere else in Africa. International strategists whom we spoke to and who have first-hand knowledge of the SADF concur.
I find it a very tough, efficient defense force. Now, my prime interest in your defense force is its way that it's carrying on a counterinsurgency operation. Your defense force has done an admirable job on it, and I think the West can learn from it if it'd ever get off its moral high horse and look at things realistically.
Of 79, Saunders was the SABC's first foreign correspondent in London. He retired in 1994.
Described as both fearless and controversial, Cliff Saunders' journalist career spanned 3 decades.
He was a committed man to his cause. He was fearless, he was outspoken. He was highly controversial because to many people he was the face of the old SABC. While he gained his high profile in South African politics, he ended up being London correspondent for the SABC.
His working assignments saw him travelling around the world. He also reported on prominent political figures. He retired in 1994. His sense of humour will be most remembered.
He made me laugh. He could, even last night when he was dying, he was fighting with me and saying, "Don't argue with me." and we both laughed. We laughed a lot. Yeah, because he had an amazing sense of humour and a very, very sharp brain, associative brain. His brain was never quiet. His brain was always on the go. I got tired thinking how his brain must be working because it's got so many associations.
His memorial and funeral service will be held on Friday.